Welcome to Reaching World Podcast, where we highlight the world's largest network of influencers for good, love, and service. Join us in saying thank you to these incredible individuals and organizations by listening, subscribing, and sharing their legacies. And by doing this together, we will help inspire others to leave their legacy of service and love. I'm your host, Zach Garner. All right, Laura, let's go ahead and introduce yourself. So we're excited to have Laura Sims on the podcast today. Laura, go ahead and introduce yourselves to our podcast listeners.
Hey, my name's Laura Sims. I'm the founder of Your Career Homecoming, which is a career change mentorship program that helps people find the right meaningful work. I'm also a mom, I'm a wife, I'm a new avid roller skater, and that's me.
Nice. Sounds like you're juggling a lot, chasing a dream, chasing a career, being a mother, picking up hobbies and things like that. So what's the current dream besides being the greatest mother you can be? What's the career dream that Laura Sims is chasing today?
You know, I've had my own business for 8 years now, and it's just a continuation and development of that dream. You know, for me, it's about, you know, the work I'm doing and the company that I'm growing and the impact I'm able to have. And it's also about doing all of that so that I can have a rich, full life. I can be, you know, the kind of parent and partner that I want to be. So anytime I'm thinking about career goals, I can't think about it in a vacuum. I'm always thinking about what does this enable me to do in my life and how can I engineer things so that my life and my work are integrated and supporting each other.
Oh, that's powerful stuff. I love that. And I'm sure that gives you the perspective and the motivation to drive and hustle every single day, because when those things align, you know, how easy it is to be passionate and excited about your dream. That's awesome. Yeah. So Laura, what is it that motivates Laura Sims every day when you wake up? What's that thing that motivates you?
I think, you know, one of the first things that I've intentionally started thinking about when I wake up every day, before I grab my phone, before the 5-year-old comes running in or anything like that, is really just starting with gratitude for what's already in my life. So thinking about my amazing kid, thinking about the fact that I woke up somewhere dry and safe, thinking about the clients that I'm going to talk with today. You know, I've got, you know, the bucket list and the things I'd like to do around my house to make it nice, or the places I'd like to go. I have those wishes, and some of them are petty and some of them are really meaningful. But, you know, the life I have, if I really stop and appreciate it, is pretty effing remarkable. You know, that
That's awesome.
I'm fed, I'm safe, I'm loved, I have a great family, I have a great career. And I think just knowing that there's more of that in store for me if I get up, put my feet on the ground and work towards it, that's motivating for me.
Oh, totally. That's so true. I love that so much. I've been finding that common thread through every person that I would, you know, portray as being successful and making it and hustling, that they have that common thread of waking up with a heart full of gratitude. And I think that's so crucial, because how much easier is it to overcome the next obstacle or the wall that we run into when our heart is full of gratitude? I love that you said that.
Yeah, and it just helps really put those obstacles in perspective. You know, I mean, there are some big, bad problems in the world and in people's individual lives. And, you know, what is the biggest challenge I'm going to have personally today in the scale of what it could be? Most days is pretty small.
Yeah.
You know, it's on the scale of inconvenience more than anything else.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Now, not to get too personal on that, but let's dive into maybe one of Laura Sims' largest obstacles that you've had to overcome in your career to get where you are today.
I think one of the biggest things for me, and this was almost a decade ago, was I had a huge career crisis. I don't know if you know this about my background, but I used to be an actor, and I had gone to graduate school, and I moved out to LA, and talk about hustling. I mean, I was pounding the pavement. Yeah. I was doing all the stuff. I just kind of ran myself ragged almost. And, you know, being an actor was such a big part of my identity, and God, I just sacrificed so many things in my life to move that career forward. And then it got to a point where the sacrifices felt way too sacrificial. And I got to the point where I was like, I don't even know if this is worth it anymore. Like, even if I met all my goals, I don't know if it would still be worth it anymore.
Wow.
And so that was really, I mean, it also kind of felt like an identity crisis too, but because I had been so aligned with this is my career, this is what I do, this is who I am, to think about stepping away from that was not just, oh, what job am I going to go do? But it was more a question of, well, if I'm not being an actor, who am I? You know, what does matter to me? How am I going to make friends now? Where does the money come from? It was just,
wow.
So there was just a lot of little pieces to mourn and grieve and heal and find answers to, way bigger than what's my next job.
And you've obviously have overcome that and to where you are today. What gives you the strength to, regather yourself, put yourself back together and move forward with your next thing? And what was that next thing? You went from actor to fill in the blank.
Yeah. So I went from actor to kind of career mentor. I basically decided I'm going to be the person that I wish I had when I had that career crisis. I want to be the person who has a plan. If someone shows up and says, just tell me what to do and I know I can do it, I want to be able to be that soft place for them to land. But getting there, I mean, sometimes I didn't feel like, oh, I'm so motivated and I'm going to figure this out. Sometimes I did want to give up, and I'd have weeks, where it just seemed hopeless and I'm never going to figure it out and it's never going to come together. But I think because I had that first love of acting and had loved it so much for a long time, I thought there has to be, I think I can have something like that again. Like I've seen before it kind of went south, there was a period of time where I felt like I had it really good. So I knew it was possible. I just didn't know what that was going to look like or how to get there. So I think just having that hope of, okay, I've done this before. I think I can do this again, and maybe I can do it even better this time.
I love that. And you're able to, rebrand yourself and start a career. That's awesome. So since doing that, what has been a career highlight of yours since you've started? You said you've been running your business for 8 years, right?
Yeah.
What has been a highlight in these last 8 years?
So many, but I think maybe one of the biggest and fairly recent, this happened in the last couple of years, was kind of stepping into breadwinner status in my family. For a while, my husband earned more than I did, and then we were pretty even. And then, I've kind of taken on that role. And just knowing that for someone who was a chronic under-earner for a long time, knowing that this business that I created out of nothing, that, I just started from scratch and slowly built up, is now a source of joy and purpose and meaning, and it takes care of my needs and my family's needs, that feels pretty substantial and it makes me proud.
Yeah. As you should be. That's awesome. And it wasn't like that, right? Your first year. I mean,
oh no, it wasn't like that for the first several years. I was doing part-time jobs. I had a full-time job. I was teaching adjunct. I was just patchworking it together, which, like no shame in that for people who are in that stage. You just do what you have to do.
Yep. There's no shame. I think that's the difference between, these up and coming millennials who think, hey, if I post a few pictures of me on Instagram working out, I'm going to become a health and influencer just that fast. And I think they don't realize, it's that whole tip of the iceberg type thing of success, of there's 10 to 15 years behind the grind that has got someone where they are today, right? And you said you've been running your business 8 years.
Yes, I've definitely been on the slow and steady track.
Well, good for you to hang in there and grind away and get to where you are today. So with that business, is that the legacy that you're trying to leave your children? If you could, sum up Laura Sim's legacy for your children or for your clients, what would that look like?
Yeah, and I think the message is the same. I'm glad you asked the distinction between clients and kid. For me, they're both different mediums to spread the same message, and I guess for me, it's about what I want to help people do fundamentally. I mean, I'm working with people on career, right? And I'm raising a kid who hopefully is going to be an amazing person.
I'm sure.
But what I'm trying to do is help people just fundamentally be more of who they are, so that we can get all the other internal, external obstacles out of the way, and that they can make a difference in a way that's really meaningful for them.
Perfect. I love that. Now, you probably use this advice all the time with clients that may be struggling, but if for our podcast listeners that are listening today that may be struggling and want to give up on their own personal dreams or aspirations, what advice would you tell them or leave with them on this episode?
I would say talk to somebody. I think one of the hardest things when I went through my big career crisis was just the isolation. I felt ashamed that I couldn't, talk to my actor friends because they were going to think I'm a quitter or they're not going to want to be my friends anymore or that I'm a failure. I wasn't sure what to tell my family because I had moved across the country to be away from them. And so, I think the isolation was one of the things that made that period in my career, in my life, the hardest. And I wish I had just had a little more courage and honestly, a little more faith in the people who cared about me to have these kinds of conversations. And sometimes just being able to say something out loud or even write it down on a piece of paper when no one's ever going to see it as a first step. But just to connect with another person around it really helps deflate it, not make it so big and so scary. Find that point of connection when you've been starving for one. And, they may be able to point you to a resource or even just a perspective that's going to help you be able to move forward and actually get you those things that you want. I think it's so easy to feel like, oh, what I want is so out of reach. That's going to be impossible. I'll never get there. It's going to be too hard. And, it may not be, fast action Instagram star solution, but there's probably a slow and steady. There's probably a way there. And I think reaching out and talking with someone is a great first step to take.
That's so true. I love that. Because in today's day and age, it's like you may have 5,000 Facebook friends, but you find out really who are your friends and who are your support, people to lean on when you do reach out and ask for help. I think it's a great way to distinguish who's really supporting you and who, your true friends and fans are when you do reach out for help. So I'm glad you said that. I think a lot of people are too, like you said, too fearful of doing that, and they're holding themselves back from doing that. So,
yeah.
So Laura, tell us about what's Laura Sim's secret to success? Like, what is your daily habits? What are your monthly habits or your career habits that give you that edge and that competitiveness to grind through the hustle?
I think more than any one habit, because I went through this big career upheaval and because of the work I do now, I just stay really connected to why I'm doing what I'm doing, whether that's in my career or parenting or hobbies or whatever it is. I feel like I've gotten better at understanding what's most important, actually aligning, at least trying my actions from the stuff on my to-do list to the bigger things I take on with what matters, and then just not doing the stuff that doesn't matter. So, but staying connected to that meaning and purpose, I think that fuels me, that focuses me, and it feels almost like this driven from within feeling, right? Instead of like, ooh, I got to slog through all these things. It's like, here we go. I know why I got to go do this stuff. And so it feels purposeful. I don't feel like I'm doing busy work. There's a meaning for the things I'm doing.
That's awesome. I do love that. Keeping that whole perspective and long-term goals in mind truly do help for sure. So Laura, what's one of your favorite personal development books and or podcasts that you listen to that our listeners should check out?
I love the book Essentialism. I'm one of those people that read this book probably 5 years ago, and then it was like, this is it. This is my life now. I am doing Essentialism in my closet, in my house, in my business. I am Essentialism. So that's one of my top recommendations for clients or anyone else who just feels like life is overwhelming. Things are going too fast. There's too much. Essentialism.
Perfect. And how about a podcast? Is there something that you listen to on the daily or weekly that helps give you motivation that you need?
Yeah, I wouldn't say on the daily, but I definitely check in with On Being. I feel like that's the humanities course from college that we all get to have free access to just hear different perspectives, spiritual, from artists, from sometimes celebrities, from scientists, just all these different great minds coming together to talk about what it means to be human. I think it's fascinating.
Perfect. Now, if you've spoken to listeners today and they want to follow you or find products or service that Laura Sims has to offer, what are the best platforms to find you and websites to find you on?
Yeah, I'd say come over to yourcareerhomecoming.com. We can connect. I've got a great free training there, and you can also find me over on Instagram at yourcareerhomecoming.
Perfect. Now, in closing, Laura, if you could have a billboard that the entire world could read, what would you want that billboard to say?
I would have it say, do what matters most.
That sums up this entire interview. I love that. It's so true. Keeping that perspective and doing what matters most, it puts everything else in alignment. Awesome, Laura. We appreciate your time today. It's been a great podcast episode.
Oh, thanks so much for having me.
These episodes will be launched on Mondays and Thursdays. And if you'd like someone to be on the podcast, if you think there's someone in your network that should be recognized for the good they are doing in the world, please reach out to us and send us a direct message. We can be found at Reaching World Podcast on Facebook.com. So be sure to find us there, like our page, and submit any ideas or suggestions of individuals or organizations that should be highlighted on this podcast. Now, to finish today's episode, a couple additional ads from our sponsors. Are you a business owner that would like to maximize your staff or sales team's production and overall performance? Go to buildyourtraining.com and see how business owners are empowering their teams by digitizing a cloud-based training platform. Again, go to buildyourtraining.com to help unleash your team's overall potential and performance.